Coming to you from the Oddball Podcast Studios in New York City. My name is Vin Forte, and you're listening to Oddball with Vin Forte. Go follow the show over on social media at Oddball Podcast, over on Twitter at Mighty Vin for the personal account, and at Vin Forte NYC over on Instagram. If you're listening to this podcast and not watching it, guess what? You can now watch it. YouTube.com/@Oddball Podcast. That's YouTube.com/@Oddball Podcast. There's already a couple episodes up right now. And if you're watching this, go subscribe the opposite way, vis-a-vis Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, if you use that, Google Play, whatever. I say it every week, and I really do mean it. You know how to get your podcast because you're listening to one right now. Come on. Now, I didn't come alone this week. There's a lot of NBA news. Big trades at the draft deadline. As of this recording, the draft is just a couple hours away, so we don't have the draft in hindsight completely, but we've got some big moves to start the off season. And I brought in a special man, a friend. Brought in the one, the only. We can get him on the screen here, Mr. Banks, from Random Acts of Podcast, from you see him over on Black Announce Table, Banks versus Davis. He's all over the place. You're all over the pod space. Banks, how are you?
I'm good, brother. Thank you for having me. Pleasure all mine. You know I'm a big fan of the show.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you very much. I like that you're recording vertically on your cell phone. Classic style. You hit me up earlier today and let me know in no uncertain terms that there's a very special topic that you wanted to talk about. And I do have that topic, but we're gonna get into that. We got what I can argue is a bigger topic right before that. So we're gonna get into it. Like I said, a lot of moves going on right now, and the biggest of them, at least maybe until the one that happened today, although maybe that's just for you, is Bradley Beal going from the Washington Wizards to Phoenix, now creating, ostensibly speaking, a big three with Kevin Durant, which, shock at this point. Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and now Bradley Beal. And as it says on the screen, if you're watching on YouTube, it absolutely was a steal for Beal because all they gave up was Landry Shamet, one of the last of their role players. This team does not have depth anymore. And basically a bunch of picks, bunch of second-round picks, too. Like some pick swaps, which I guess could turn into first-round picks, but really just a lot of picks. And, by the way, Chris Paul, who they've now switched Washington has to another team, which we'll get into in a moment. But Bradley Beal, how do you feel about this?
When Bismack Biyombo is your starting center or your backup center, you have an issue at hand. Of course, he's not the starter's DeAndre Ayton, which they need to figure that out. But I think it's good, but it's one basketball. Unless you got two or three out there, it's like, who's the ball dominant player in this instance? Obviously, it's going to be Kevin Durant, but then it's like, all right, cool. Or is Devin and Bradley going to switch back and forth? Like, I pass to you, you pass to me type situation.
Well, not even that, but who's playing defense?
Nobody. That's the key factor. Like, again, I messed up when I said Bismack Biyombo. You might want to have him come off the bench and start in this instance because, yeah, you got to get some rebounding. Like, I believe DeAndre during the playoffs averaged, 8.4 rebounds per game?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so no rim protection. And then you can't – obviously Durant has the height for it. I think his career average is only about 5 to 6 rebounds per game. He plays the 4 now, but at the same time, if I got to play 42 minutes, plus I got to get you some odd points and rebound, it's going to be an issue. And we saw that when they got gassed up against the Nuggets.
Well, that's the other thing, too, is more and more we're seeing a big conversation forming about people getting traded and then, well, how durable are they? You know, the best availability, or the best ability rather, is availability. And you know, some people, I said that last year or at the beginning of last season, and some people scoffed at me. Like some guy went at me on Twitter. It was like, yeah, but if you're a scrub, but I'm like, yeah, but we're not talking about scrubs. Like we're talking about the superstars here. When you're a superstar, if you can't be on the court, that's a big problem. Chris Paul basically got traded because of that. Like I guarantee you, if Chris Paul was a little more reliable, they wouldn't have shipped him off. And now you've got Bradley Beal, who has been great for most of his career in the past couple of years. He's been injury prone. Kevin Durant, his legs are graham crackers at this point. Like he's always getting injured every single season now. Like yeah, he's been okay in the playoffs when he's been there, but you can't rely on him as much as you would probably like. And that just leaves Devin Booker. So there may be a situation this coming year where you may have just Bradley Beal and Devin Booker out there. You may just have KD and Devin Booker out there. Devin Booker might get hurt. And then you've got, you know, just Bradley Beal. If any one piece of this puzzle goes down, we're looking at a severely hampered team. Again, because they've traded all of their depth. This new owner, Ishka, I don't know why. He clearly wants to win now. He's not afraid to spend money. He's got new owner syndrome. He's like, okay, I'm cleaning house. We're getting rid of Monty Williams, which I think was a huge mistake. I would love to see whose call that was. Whether that was Ishbia's call or if that was a Kevin Durant thing, because there is precedent for that. And then the weirdness of Isaiah Thomas is in the mix now. Somehow we don't really know what role he has, but Chris Paul saying that Isaiah Thomas is the reason that he was shipped off. Why would you even bring in Zeke to begin with? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off, Vinny.
No, go ahead.
So I have to cut you off in that instance because when Chris said it 2 days ago, he was on the plane when he got traded. He said Isaiah. I was like, Isaiah is in Zeke, and I didn't really read into it. I was like, all right, that's a common name. And then I was listening to the great Bomani Jones, who said Isaiah again, and my mind kept saying, is everybody talking about Zeke? And then now you're saying it. I got a question. How did Isaiah Thomas get in with the Suns organization? That's just, that's apples and oranges right there.
Well, I think maybe he knows Ishbia. I haven't looked too deep into it. Again, I think even people there in the know are kind of like, okay, they may understand how he got there, but what his role is specifically is a little nebulous right now. And I don't blame them for keeping it nebulous, because when he was on the Knicks and he was coach and president of basketball operations, didn't go so well. Not to, we're not even getting into the off the court stuff that was going on during that time that led to lawsuits. So
this is reminiscent of it a little bit, though.
It's reminiscent because, again, it's this win now attitude. I think they could have easily run this back. It's like, okay, we added Kevin Durant. We make some moves in the offseason to add depth, and we go from there. We're a good team. We got a great coach. Let's run it back. But instead, they're kind of doing what the Mavericks seem to be keen on doing right now, which is like, we don't need shooting. That's the last thing this team needs, is more shooting. But if we did have more shooting, hey, we could be really good at shooting. It's like, but you're already really good at shooting. You have holes in your, you need to fill those holes. You don't need more shooting. You've got Kevin Durant and you've got Devin Booker. This idea of we need a big three, I think it's an idea whose time is now quickly passing.
Yeah, I was actually going to say that too. I'm glad that you said that. The whole big three, big four aspect or the super team, that's done, because everybody initially that was doing that, such as a Kevin Durant, LeBron, I'm not against that. I've always said it's great for the league. It's great, especially for the revenue when it comes to these teams. Just ask the current owner of the Golden State Warriors, who we'll talk about later on. You need the super teams because obviously it's just like wrestling. You book it to see the superstars, and that's how you put it over. But the problem is these teams that are putting quote unquote super teams together, everybody's old.
Everybody's old. You're getting people way after the fact. And even without that, what we're learning with the past couple of champions, even with the Warriors, we'll get to in a minute, is that it's better to play the long game. It's better to have something that you're growing, and okay, there's never a guarantee that it's going to work out, but you can see the progress. You know what you can add long term, because what happens when you think very short term, in like Ishby is doing, where it's like, oh, we got to win now, win now, win now. Well, if it doesn't work, now you're back to square one. And also, now you're in a position where you're trading a lot of your depth, which in a lot of cases, in most cases, means trading a lot of your younger talent. So you're not going to see that talent eventually bloom. And then when the thing eventually blows up, now you're left scrambling to win now again, and you got to make big moves. Although at that point, it's diminishing returns because you at a certain point you're going to have no more assets to trade, whether that's people or picks. Now we're going to segue from that into the next piece of this puzzle, which is Chris Paul, because he was traded to the Wizards in that deal, and the Wizards very quickly turned around. And as of like an hour ago of this recording, he's going to the Warriors, and that's weird as all hell because they were rivals in the West.
Yeah.
So now he's there, traded for Jordan Poole, and again, like just some picks, which, okay, I would not have done that. I think this is a panic move by the Warriors, and they're a team that I could see are in a little bit of a panic mode because, like, okay, well, no one's getting any younger. We got to deal with Draymond this offseason, but we want to keep Draymond, so I think this was a ploy to keep him. Takes the vibe of the whole Jordan Poole situation out of the equation by just shipping him off. But it's even weirder because it's like, you guys have already won. Like, you're a proven commodity. You're a team that does have young players like Kuminga, like Jordan Poole. And I know people have gotten on Poole in the past, but he's 24 years old, averaging 20 points a game. You're shipping him off for Chris Paul, who's like, look, we know what Chris Paul is. We know he's a Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer. We know he's great assist leader, great steal. He's everything you would want in like the perfect role player on your team. So in that sense, it could turn out okay for them, but I feel like this is a weird sign to be like, we're going to trade one of our younger players for a 38-year-old, soon to be 39-year-old Chris Paul, who, remember, several seasons ago, people were like, oh, this is going to be Chris Paul's last chance. Then last season was like, oh, this is going to be Chris Paul's last chance. Now this season is going to be, oh, it's going to be Chris Paul's last chance. This guy's going to be in the league for the next 10 years.
Mm-hmm. I think I'll say this. Number one, I agree with you on that. Number one, it took a European player to shake up the whole league. Something I never thought I would say. We've had foreign players shake up the league, but now people are making panic moves, as you just said, because this is definitely a panic move. I understand what Jordan Peele did in the playoffs, or lack thereof, but at the same time, again, 24 is 24. Let them grow. We've seen this happen before with your backcourt players, and obviously it's Clay and Steph, and that's a totally different situation. But still, you have a system in place that seems to make everybody, or as Shaq says, the others better. So that's number one. Number two, initially when I talked to you about it and you offered me to come on the show, which is great, I appreciate it. This added on years for Steph. Now, the Clay situation, we have to see how that plays out, because obviously Draymond just opted out of his contract, so he's an unrestricted free agent. The Klay Thompson situation, him getting paid, that's right there. So obviously Draymond says he wants to max. Is he a max player? Not at this point, but at the same time, he is that system. And I think with a Chris Paul and a Draymond, being that they are older, Chris Paul much older and, much less healthier, it still helps a Steph who will obviously be at the 2 now, without question, who originally was a two. Even though at Davidson he played a lot of the one, and initially when he slided to the NBA, he was a one as well because of his stature. But this definitely helps his career long term for his health. And then we see what happens with Clay. But the system does Clay, obviously now he's just a spot up shooter. But with Steph, is he just a pick and pop type guy now? Does he just stand out there and shoot? Is my question.
That it's a very good question. It's going to be interesting how this either enhances or disrupts this dynamic, because it's kind of a move no one saw coming. Who the hell guessed Chris Paul was going to get shipped off to the Warriors? Again, a team that seemed to, in the past couple of years, been in some ways lucking into, but adding younger guys to sort of extend the life of this existing core and plan for the future. Now, again, it feels like this is the first time they took a brick out of the wall where it's like, okay, we're not as patient as maybe we thought we were. We're shipping Jordan Poole off. What happens next? And I think you're right, where this is absolutely a move to try and extend Steph Curry. He is, above everyone else on this team, the be-all, end-all for this franchise. And, the sun revolves around him on this team. So anything that they can do to extend his playing time, to make sure that he's just a little more well rested, that he doesn't have to play so much defense, that Chris Paul's going to be there and all he's got to do is kick the ball out to Steph and Draymond and Clay and whoever else. I think that's a good move for them. Maybe, but again, going back to the idea of availability, Chris Paul's he's gotta be on the court to make a difference. If he's not on the court, then who picks up that slack? Where do the Golden State Warriors go to? Who do they turn to be the facilitator?
Right, because now you had an instance with the bench being Jordan Poole coming off the bench. Now you got to look for, I don't know, they might be over the luxury cap, but the owner never cares. He pays for it. Now you got to be in a situation where you have to get somebody younger than Chris Paul to be the backup, because obviously Chris Paul will be starting. And again, like you said, nobody saw this coming. Obviously, this is his rival since, 2015, if not before then, but definitely 2015 when he was with the Clippers. And when he got to Houston, he hated this team. That's where the infamous gif came from, of him waving off Steve Kerr and then laughing. So for him to go to this team, it's not awkward because obviously he has a win mentality. Mm-hmm. I think the biggest thing is we heard the Lakers, and I'm so glad the Lakers don't get anything because I despise the Lakers, but that's neither here or there. But then we heard the Clippers, and I was like, all right, but they have an offer. Apparently right now, or allegedly, they have an offer for Russell Westbrook for a Vince minimum. And, I said, if you rush, you take that because I don't think nobody else wants to pay you. But I thought maybe they can get Chris Paul and Russ just because, they got some cap room, but obviously not now. So that Pacific Division is probably Golden State's by default now.
Possibly, but what is the perception of this going to be like a year from now if the Warriors win it again? And that's going to be great for them because they're going to, I mean, I don't know if it shuts up the people who claim that they're not a dynasty, but I think it does. If they win and never won, I think they're in that San Antonio category where it's not a back-to-back-to-back dynasty, but every couple of years for 10 years, they find a way to get in and win one. And for Chris Paul, what does this do for his legacy? Are there going to be people out there who go, yeah, but a little, too little, too late? Because in Phoenix, even though obviously Devin Booker was the number one guy, Chris Paul was very clearly kind of the heart and soul of that team. You always hear he's a great leader, especially with the younger guys. Big assist guy as well. So it's not like he's a ball hog. He's not coming there to be the star. He's coming there to help a team win. I don't know if that same feeling is present when he's on a team that's already a contender and has those pieces pretty locked in like the Warriors do.
The legacy conversations are a little convoluted. I feel like at times you can say it because you actually know about sports. ESPN at times doesn't know about sports. No disrespect. I hate to cut a shoot promo on your podcast, but I'm just saying the legacy conversations get annoying at times. I'm like, dude, it doesn't affect the people that you're talking about legacies because they're already top 75 players. But I understand what you mean by that. So, and I'm not attacking ESPN. I just feel as if he wins a championship with the Warriors, people are going to say it took him years. The thing is, when people hate a player, which it seems to be now, it used to be when we were coming up, you would love just about every player, even if they played dirty. Like people hated Alonzo Mourning when I was growing up, but at the same time, you loved him and respect him as a player, but you still hated him. Now it's just because maybe it's the internet, maybe it's NBA 2K, I don't know. But it seems to be it's always a preconceived notion with any player, especially an all timer. Like, and people really have heat with Chris Paul, like tremendously. I don't know how. So if he wins the title, people will be upset. If he loses, people will just be upset and say, "See, there you go." So with him, I think it's now or never really because you are going against Father Time, and we know Father Time is undefeated. But playing under Steve Kerr, who was, the go-to player in '98 for my Chicago Bulls, under that system, you kind of have your best coach, or at least, probably the best coach that you've ever been under. And that's no disrespect to a Monty Williams or a Byron Scott.
Yeah. Or, well, it's because they're a little disrespect to Doc Rivers, I think.
Always disrespect to Doc Rivers, but that's besides the point.
That could be a whole, we're not going to get into that, but that could be a whole other conversation about.
Yeah, that's a 2-hour conversation I could have.
Yeah, we will do a whole episode on Doc Rivers. But we're going to move on right now to another big story that came up this week, which is, you just mentioned the GOAT and legacy. We're going to talk a little about Michael Jordan, this man. Michael Jeffrey Jordan cashing out from his majority stake in the Charlotte Hornets. He's getting out of the GM business. I believe his record in the postseason is 3 wins in, 13 years? Something like that?
Yeah.
He bought the team for $275 million, not an insignificant amount of money. Sells the team. Numbers are not officially out, but ESPN reports that it's estimated to be worth $3 billion. And this is on, let's never forget, this is on top of all the endorsement money he gets, all the Nike money he gets. This is a very wealthy man. Terrible GM, though. Like, this brings up a whole conversation that I want to get into with you, where if you're rich above a certain threshold, in theory, the money machine just doesn't stop at that point. And this is a great example, because nobody in the history of the 4 major sports in America has bought a team, sold it at a later date, and lost money. These teams only grow in value because, like a work of art, there's only so many of them to go around. So even a moribund franchise like the Charlotte Hornets, which has like no resonance at any given time, to the point where some people don't even know the name of the team because it's swapped around. So are they the Bobcats, or the Hornets again, are they the Pelicans? What's going on here? Even a team like that bought it for $275 million, flips it less than 15 years later for $3 billion with a capital B, baby.
The best thing I could say is, you said it, he's the GOAT. And I'm trying not to be biased because I'm a diehard Bulls fan and Jordan is my guy. The problem is, I think, with Jordan is pride. And this is what got him heat with Charles Barkley. Because remember, Chuck said, and they were the best of friends. Chuck said years ago, and he said, in my honest opinion, he's not a good GM. But it's not like he was just like, burying him. It was
he wasn't mean about it at all. He was like, listen, you're my friend, But if you want this to be a success, you gotta stop surrounding yourself with yes men. And he was right.
But that's the thing with Jordan. How many times since 1982? I'll even say that. I'll go that far back since he was at the, great college of UNC. Uh, how many times has people said no to him since then? And that was 41 years ago.
No, you're right. Like,
So it's and then in Charlotte, where he's from, or more so outside of Charlotte, but still North Carolina. So you bought a team, you had some stake in it. The owner of BET and Nelly had some stake in the team as well. And then obviously he bought it in 2010 as a whole. So you have a team in your hometown. The sky's the limit. Like, it's Jordan. If he would have bought a team in Bermuda, if he would have bought a team anywhere in a small country that we don't even know about, people still would try to find a way to get there and increase the revenue for that city just because it's just Jordan. It's certain people that. No, go ahead, Vinny. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, but that brings up the point that I don't get, which is, and I said it just a minute ago too, like, this man's got more money than he's ever gonna know what to do with. You're the owner. He never once made a big play for someone. Like, even in the win now mode, like, never once was like, you know what? This is my team. I'm taking the reins here, and we are going to go for it. Like, every trade deadline came and went, and even this past year when the trade deadline came, the pictures came out of him like, he was golfing or something, just smoking a cigar, and it was like, okay, this guy like cares about his franchise. Like, doesn't care about making moves. Just wanted to sit back and let the interest roll in on this franchise. And God bless him if it's just about making money. He did it. He's the GOAT. Very few people buy something very few people get to buy something for $275 million and have it potentially, allegedly, flip to not one, not two, $3 billion. I can't fathom how much money $1 billion is, let alone three.
I can't even fathom a million. I can't fathom $100,000.
Absolutely.
If I had that, I'm like, all right. I know I bought every Steam deck I could think of.
If someone handed me $1,000 right now, I would be like, oh my God, this helps me out for like the next, I'm set for the summer. Like, I could supplement a bunch of, like, that's how the average person thinks.
Right.
This is money we can't even comprehend.
Yeah, like, how do you even go to the bank and say, hey, I want to withdraw $500 million of my $1 billion? And do what?
Right, like, I can't go to an ATM and take $200 out without my bank calling me.
Right, so how do you, it's beyond our comprehension. Hopefully we can even get halfway there. Just get me 2% there, and I'll be fine with it.
Yeah.
But to have that, it's just, it makes me think about Jordan as an entity, and that's a whole episode I could have. It's just, this dude just, how many losses has he really taken? Like, obviously, personal stuff. That's besides the point. I want to keep the personal away from professional. But it's just like, it's certain people that you see. It's just how they say the it factor. It's just certain people you just cheat coded life. Like, it's just like you was scoped and molded to become this guy like figure, and that's Jordan. So to sell this is mainly because of Jordan. That's why they work that much.
Right, but at the same time, the worst GM for an extended period of time, maybe in basketball history, for a major market team.
And you know what he became, Vinny?
What?
He became his worst nightmare. Remember the Jerry Krause?
Yeah.
RCB, for if I'm not mistaken.
He said, like, oh, the suits don't make the team. The players make the team. We make the team. And it's like, no, now you're seeing the other side of it.
Like, think about all the all-stars that have came from the team since he bought stake until him becoming the majority owner. Let's just go 13 years back when he became the majority owner. How many all-stars besides LaMelo have they had? Because in 2009, or 2008, Steven Jackson and Gerald Wallace were supposed to be their all-stars that got them to the playoffs.
Right.
That's the last time before last year before last when LaMelo got them on there. So think about the all-stars. He's known to be cheap. Apparently, that's what the streets have been saying for years, but you can kind of tell by the suits he used to wear. I hope Jordan never hears this because I love him, but the suits are a little bit extravagant. But the players that he chooses to pay, it's like Gordon Hayward is worth $100 million, and that's it. Like it's one player he'll pick, and they're always the highest paid. Everybody else is kind of like, all right, they're getting somewhere roughly about, even though it's a good amount, $20 million for like 3 years.
It's absolutely insane. I'm just looking up the stats right now. In the 33 seasons the Hornets have been a thing, here's their records going back from when he bought the team. So he bought them when they were the Bobcats. Okay, so what, 2010, 2011, 34 and 48. Next year 7 and 59. Jesus Christ. 21 and 61. 43 and 39. Okay, that's a winning season in 13-14. Then 33 and 49. So basically flipped it the next year. Then went 48 and 34 in 2015-2016. 36 and 46. 36 and 46 again the year later. So 39 and 43 in 19, making progress. Then 23 and 42, 33 and 39, 43 and 39 last season, or the season before this last one. And then they bottomed out again this year at 27 and 55. Last year was actually not, they didn't make the playoffs, but like was not a terrible year for them. Like they were kind of, last year was the first year, 2 seasons ago now, not the season's over.
Yeah.
It felt like they had a little momentum going, didn't it? Where it was like, okay, like I kind of see what they're building here. But then again, the trade deadline would come and go, and the off season would come and go, and it's like you're not making moves. Like, you got to build. Like when you catch something, you got to actually do something with it.
I think it's just him being cheap. I had another point and I lost it. It's weird because Charlotte is a low-key pretty good city. Like I've spent time in Charlotte. It's a really nice city and it's enough revenue coming in there. But the problem is it's just no marketing behind it. But it's no marketing behind it. A bunch of laziness. I want to say Mitch Kupchak, I think, is still the GM there, if I'm not mistaken.
But he could have been the marketing. Like you're Michael Jordan. You've got all the money. Like that's the marketing is what you can control. Sake of argument, you can't control what's on the court, even though you're the GM. For sake of argument, you can't control what's on the court. The guys are gonna go out there and do what they're gonna do. But what you can control is the perception of the team. You can help galvanize the city around it. You can do marketing campaigns. You're Mr. Nike. You don't know marketing campaigns? Like, come on.
And he definitely does because he's business savvy. He even told Chuck, don't sign a deal, I think with Adidas or Reebok, sign with Nike. Yeah. And to this day, Chuck is still getting paid residuals from them. So he knows business, obviously. And then the guy's the logo by default, and that's no disrespect to Jerry West. I love Jerry West. But the guy is the logo being Jordan by default. He probably has some of the greatest lawyers we ever heard or never heard of. So he knows probably all the intricacies of every contract. I think as you were talking, and this came into my mind, maybe this is a way for Jordan to be Jordan without being Jordan, if that makes sense. Like I'm here, but I don't want to be seen. I want to be kind of in the limelight. Yeah. So maybe that's why the marketing was lack of none. Maybe that's the reason why instead of him just saying, hey, come see the Hornets because Michael Jordan is here, you had to actually realize that Michael Jordan was the owner.
Yeah. And again, like this, people are going to talk about, does this, dent his legacy a little bit? And I think it does. Like we're talking about the overall legacy. Yeah. If you want to separate it from just on the court and off the court, Yeah, we could do that. But when you're at the level of a Michael Jordan, I think this goes against you a little bit. The fact that you like talked a big game and that you held on to this team for so long, and yeah, you got a lot of money out of it, but again, like the rich are always going to get richer. And to segue from the rich getting rich to the rich asking us to subsidize them being rich, we got this guy, Mr. Aaron Rodgers, who it is a nice picture. If you're only listening on the pod, go subscribe on YouTube. Yeah, get on the YouTube. Get on the YouTubes. Why don't you?
That's better. That's where I watch the pod at now.
Yeah, exactly. But according to Front Office Sports, Aaron Rodgers has a startup seeking $1.5 million in crowdfunding for online sports database, which is a startup him and all these other people are funding. Basically, what online sports database is he wants it to be the IMDb of sports, which, upon first blush, you're probably thinking, well, wait a minute. Don't we already have, like, basketball resource, and, football resource, and, like, all those sites? Yeah, we do. So I don't know why we need an IMDb for sports when a bunch of them already exist. Now, his little twist to it is, okay, you could find out everything going on with a player. So if they've got different investments, if they've, doing a movie or something, you can get all of that information as well as just the hard stats and, in the case of basketball, like the basketball data. But the bigger issue to me is, the hell are you doing crowdfunding? Like, because we can get in on this with you? No, just peel off. You're getting, what, $50 million this year? You had $35 million coming in from the Packers. You could believe me, you could peel off $1.5 million and do this venture yourself. You don't need my money. You don't need Banks' money. You don't need anyone's money to do this.
Well, I'll say this. There's no way I'll fund anything that a Green Bay Packers player is doing. Let's just...
Well,
some
good thing he's not
surgery.
On the Packers this season, so is that changing?
It don't matter. I can still smell the cheese on him.
Okay.
I can't. I'm trying not to be biased, but we talking sports, which I love. So I'm a diehard Cowboys fan. Yeah, stay away from me. Number two, I want to know that he asked his parents to donate any money.
Okay. Well, we're not gonna get into that, but
I'm sorry, but it's just you know what it is.
People could do their own research on that.
That's what I'm saying. Like I didn't want to take a dig at him, but it just was right there. I'm sorry. Like you just said, we're not pocket counting, but I'm pretty sure this dude, just off the commercials alone, right now, this past week, maybe this past month, whatever the residuals were in the contract, has $1.5 million. I'm not even getting into the NFL money. I'm pretty sure, without pocket counting, he's made at least $101 million. No, I'm sorry, $200 million from the Packers organization alone.
Yeah,
this
he's
contract is like 100.
Right, and he's friends with Pat McAfee, who got that new ESPN deal. Maybe you could, hit up Pat McAfee for a little scratch.
Oh, we can't forget that, Vinny, because he was on there talking about,
ayahuasca and
the shot. He was talking about a whole. It was like, dude, what? Yeah, I'm going to the cave for 10 days to make a decision. No, you could stay outside and do that as well.
You could just stay in your house and do that. You don't have to go to a cave. Like, you want to shut the lights off, and you could do that.
You can do that. I'm pretty sure you have a huge mansion where you can go in a theater room and just be in a pitch black. But I want to ask if Aaron Rodgers, if you ever hear this great podcast, which you need to subscribe on Oddball Podcast on YouTube, did you go in the dark, meditate, and whatever God or deity you worship, did they tell you to help Jordan Love? Because I don't think you did that.
Well, no one said he had to help Jordan Love, but
help Jordan Love.
You really hate that.
That's how you get the $1 million in good karma. He believes in good karma and all that spiritual stuff. Help Jordan Love. That's how you get the $1.5 million.
Well, look, we don't know. He hasn't been out. He might have been called him in the off season. I don't know. I saw him taking some of his new Jets friends out to to Broadway the other night. Maybe we don't know. Maybe Jordan Love was there. Maybe he called up Lovey. They're like, "Yo, Lovey, come jet over to NYC. We'll go see Wicked."
See, he could have used that money for Wicked to then crowdfund, because I'm sure that was a couple thousand. You almost there. Every dollar counts.
Every dollar counts. Yeah. So screw that. I've seen this a couple of times now, where like millionaires and in some cases billionaires come out and are like, "Oh, we got this new product. We just got to crowdfund the last bit of it to gauge interest." Like, there's more than one way to gauge interest. You don't need to take my money to gauge interest. You could put up a poll. You could run up a poll. You could, throw out a questionnaire, do some surveys, like hire a company to do that for far less money too. You don't need to go through all this stuff. But something that they did not take a poll on, but magically came up, I guess we all wanted it because it's back, is Slamball, baby. Slamball is back. You didn't see this news this week? Slamball
No, I didn't.
has a deal with ESPN for the next 2 years. So they are locked in for 2 seasons of Slamball, baby. For people who don't know what Slamball is, it originated back in like 2002. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see this was supposed to be a GIF, but apparently it ain't working, so whatever. But you still get the gist of it. It's people playing basketball, but it's high contact like football, and around the rim, there's 4 trampolines built into the floor. So you're doing like super dunks. You're doing like EA Big, NBA Street Volume 2 style game breaker dunks. And street ball. Slamball was around in 2002, came back for 2003, then like went away and like was around intermittently. Like they did a season in like 2006, then skipped a year, did one in 2008, then like came back in 2013, then in 2016, then like a couple of years ago, like right before the pandemic, they did a season. But now they seem to be going hard now. Like they are back and they are locked in with ESPN for 2 years of Slamball. Banks, are you excited for Slamball, baby?
You see my face? Well, kind of. This
Hold
is a
on.
face of
Let's
excitement.
let's get his face up here. Let's get him up
Get
here.
the money.
Let's see this face.
money
Get the money maker.
Yeah. I'm excited. Can't wait for this. Essentially, Slamball is what Zion and LeBron do in real life in Vince Carter. And just with trampolines.
Pretty much. I feel like it was originally a ploy to get on the like and one street ball trend, but like with a little bit of a twist. But it never quite took off like they thought it was gonna.
Yeah, it was one. What was it? TNN before Spike TV.
It was on Spike TV. Yeah.
Okay, because remember, it's just not to segue or not segue, but not to go on the off note. It's just it was around the time that Spike had robots fighting each other. They had the Japanese game show. I forgot the name
most
of
extreme elimination challenge.
Yeah, so they had so much going on. Million Ways to Die, the Ultimate Warrior, all this type of stuff like that, and then Pros versus Joes, which they, Bomani's been saying that. I'll say it too. Yeah, Pros versus Joes needs to come back in 2023. With these athletes we have now, yeah, we definitely need that. So this is around the time that all those shows were on. So I can see it getting lost in the shuffle. People will be interested. They'll just be like, oh, those guys jumping around on trampolines doing NBA Street Volume 3 moves. And that's phenomenal for me and you and others that really like it. But for everybody else, I can see why, you get caught up in the loop. And obviously WWE Raw was here too.
Yeah, it always just seemed a little too gimmicky for most people, where it's like, okay, we're playing basketball. Like, once you see the trampolines, you're either in or you're out on Slamball.
Yeah.
Like, there's no in between on how someone feels about Slamball. It's either like, F yes, like, give me more trampolines. Or, like, I want the whole court as trampolines. Quite, I don't even know why they have a whole middle section. Just give me Give me a whole trampoline field where guys are jumping around, knocking into each other in midair. Like, give me a true trampoline ball. And you know what? This may supplant this offseason for me. I was getting a little excited for the big three coming back. They're going to be at the United Center later this month, or I guess later this week, actually. But then this news came out about Slamball, and it's almost like, sorry, big three. New love of my life just showed up. It's like that meme of the guy walking with his girlfriend, and he turns around. And it's like it's the hotter girlfriend. That's Slamball. Slamball's a hotter girlfriend right now.
I mean, why not both, my friend?
That's
I love the
true.
big three. I love the big three as well. And then we got Slamball. Hey, man, if we can keep this for 2 months, that'll get us halfway to, training camp.
Well, you know what we need. You know what we really need if we want to really get people talking. We need some roller derby back. We need Mr. Mean, Harold Jackson. We need people flipping and flying over the guardrails. We need 70s and 80s style roller derby back.
You know what? We'll get that back before the XFL. Like, just
Yeah,
bring that back.
XFL not doing so hot.
Yeah, bring that back and bring back arena football. I think this is a sign from God, like, yo, no more XFL. Bring back arena football.
You know what? I used to watch arena football. It was not the greatest football in the world, but it felt low stakes enough. Where like the big three is for basketball, where it's like, hey, we're not trying to compete. We're doing our own little version of what you like, and it's in the off season, and it's just sort of nice and tidy. It's not like the XFL. I get that they pivot a little more into we're doing our own thing, but the XFL still feels like it's trying to like force some merger with the NFL where it's like we want in and we're gonna do it by having this proof of concept called the XFL. And it's like, no, just be your own thing. Be your own thing. Give us something a little unique. Remember when the original commercials for XFL were running in like the early 2000s and it made it seem like there were going to be like friggin' wrecking balls like flying all over the court and bombs going off?
This ain't your dad's NFL, something like that with the campaign.
Yeah. Oh, the NFL stands for No Fun League.
Yeah, that was all Vinnie Mac's idea too. You could definitely tell that was him.
Yeah, well, they would have these vignettes where, remember, like, they tried to get storylines going, and when they couldn't get storylines going with the players, their big storyline was Jesse Ventura and Dick Butkus.
I remember. I played in the NFL back in 1982, Vinny. Don't tell me I'm a fraud man.
It's a terrible Jesse Ventura.
You tell me
Okay,
why the coup de grace, right? Told me Walter Payton played with the Bears.
Well, I think that's as good a note as any to wrap up this episode on. So, Banks, big time Banks, where can people find you? I know you're on social media, but your availability on there is scarce. So if people really want to hit you up, where can they find you? Whatever podcast are you on? Let people know.
Just follow me on IG. That's not a problem. I keep the social medias up now. I just know how to, do it right, so to speak. The man called Banks, just like the man called Sting, instead of Banks, instead of Sting on Banks. So on IG, Twitter is man called Banks, and I think on TikTok it's the same thing. But just follow me on the first two platforms, just in case TikTok is out of here by tomorrow.
There we go. And with all that said, well, before we get to the end, I should remind you again, like I did at the top, if you are watching this on YouTube, go subscribe to the audio version over on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, and wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're only listening on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts, go subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@Oddball Podcast. That's the @ symbol, not AT. So youtube.com /@Oddball Podcast. Link in the description. So you don't even have to go look it up. It's in the description. Just go click the link. Subscribe. It's free. I'm not doing a Patreon. Not doing any sort of like, coffee, PayPal me, whatever. No, just you get the pod and it's there. And with all that said, thank you once again, Banks, for coming on. And I will see you guys next week. Same time, same place. You've been listening to Oddball with Vin Forte. Like I said, my name is Vin Forte. And with all of that out of the way, goodbye.